So, once again, welcome all of you to the 29th episode of Values for Life series. And we are so fortunate we have our very dear and respected Jayanti Didi all the way from London, UK, to speak on this value of mercy. The prime aim of choosing this value today is firstly, all of you very well know Christmas has just passed, it's a day ago. And all of you know Christ was the preacher of mercy. He was being put on the crucifix, on the cross, but then also he said, God Father, forgive them and have mercy for them, for they don't know what they are doing. And another prime reason, I think the most of the audience in India and the Punjabis worldwide would be able to relate that better, I feel, because from 21st till 27 December, till tomorrow as well, this week is celebrated in the North India Punjab state as a marker of martyrdom of Guru Gobind Singh's 4 sons and also his mother, who were actually shot dead by the Mughals. So it is sort of an emblem of a marker of mercy for those souls as well. And mercy is such a virtue or value which really can make up the things which have broken. And we have with us our very dear sister to speak on that. So before I go on with the formal introduction, I would request Brother Eric, who's with us today as always, the National Coordinator of the Canadian Brahma Kumaris Centers, to officially welcome Jayanti Didi. Over to you, Brother Eric.
Shanti, everyone, and yes, good morning, good afternoon. A very, very warm welcome, Jayanti Didi. It's really always a pleasure to be asked. I don't know if it's official welcome. I don't think it's official. It's not official. It is more like welcome from the heart. And I think there is the Zoom, and we always use these words, that Zoom rhymes with bloom. And there's one song, I have to admit, it's one of my favorite songs. Maybe I'll send you the link, Jayanti Didi. It's a jazz song. And it tells about, it could be really a song that we sing to God. And it says, if I were to lose you, the stars from the sky will fall, and things will go wrong. But when I'm with you, there's a beautiful line. And it says, when I'm with you. And I think this line today applies to you. And when we are with you, it says that a rose will bloom in the snow. And if you could see what I see through my window, it is white Christmas in Montreal today. And yesterday, it's a beautiful white. It has been snowing for 2 days. So there's a lot of snow. But when I was, when I knew that I will be with you this morning, what came to me was a rose. And I thought, oh, that reminds me of this beautiful line of the song, that when I'm with you, a rose will bloom in the snow. And I know we sing everything to God, but I think we're allowed to say that to each other. I've known you for many, many years, and I've shared so many times. I think that I love Father Christmas, but I love my sister's Christmas. And so in a way, you are also a very, very lovely companion to many of us. The journey on which sometimes we get a little bit discouraged. Sometimes we wonder if we can make it, but we look at those who are ahead and who are, setting the trail for all of us. So yes, this rose is for you, and you are welcome in the snow. I have a beautiful picture of you in Piz Village in the snow, if you remember, with your coat. We met at that time, and it was a lot of snow. And so you were the living rose in the snow. And today, this is a rose for you to show how you make us bloom in the snow when we're with you. So very warm welcome in this white Canada. And we had this beautiful celebration for Christmas. And I find that this virtue of mercy, to me, my inspiration this year for Christmas was to really have good wishes for myself. And yes, to give gifts to everyone. And if you want to insert in your sharing a little line for me, my question is usually, if I want to really make a gift for myself, because I know how to make gift for others. I love to find something nice or make something, wrap it, put a bow, flowers and perfume and everything. I know to do that. But to make a gift for myself, what will be the best gift I can give myself? So I let you with that in the back of your mind, and I'll be listening carefully to your sharing. So thank you for being this beautiful rose in the snow, blooming in Zoom. And welcome to Canada. It's not just Canada, it's a Canadian family. I've seen them, they're here already, but the world is listening. But yes, the Canadian family is hosting. So we are the nest, we are the couch. You are sitting comfortably in Canada, forget London. If they look for you, you're gone. You're not in Zoom, you're in Canada. And we welcome you with the bottom of our hearts. So welcome, Jayanti Didi, and looking forward to be with you in the next hour. So Shanti and loving greetings from each and every one, and Merry Christmas and all the best of the new year also for you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Brother Eric. And before I pass it on to Didi, I'll take a few more minutes, Didi, and officially introduce you to the people around. Didi doesn't need introduction, I feel, but I think you all need to know Didi, what her achievements in one way. So Didi basically is the European and Middle Eastern director of the Brahma Kumaris centers there. But of late, additionally, this year since April, it's almost 8 months now, Didi also holds this responsibility of being the additional administrative head of the Brahma Kumaris. She has got this beautiful blend of East and West, and I must say that Didi has been representing the Brahma Kumaris on an international platform, in being an NGO representative to the United Nations as well. She also is the advisor to the Council for the Parliament of the World's Religions, and she is also a member of the advisory body of the International Interfaith Center. Well, I can go on and on, but I must say that what I like about Didi is she's a sweet, humble Didi. She captivates the audience with not only her spiritual wisdom and the depth of her talks, but also her soothing voice and gentle, humble nature, full of love all the time. That's what really makes Jayanti Didi what she is. And a few lines on Jayanti Didi. She strikes this beautiful balance of West and East, and she gives us this amazing knowledge as a feast. By inculcating that in our life, that's what we can do the least. And let's try to convert ourselves from beauty to the beast. Otherwise, just listening would be like baking a bread without yeast. So today's virtue is on mercy, a few lines on mercy. As doctors, for our patients, we are taught to be sympathetic. And for understanding someone's situation, we need to be empathetic. So let's all of us try to be really opportunistic and develop the quality of being spiritualistic. Step a bit away from being materialistic, and that shall enable us to lead a life which is really fantastic. Not having to worry about being futuristic, let's try to apply in life this tactic. And today in our discussion on mercy, let's not be didactic, because life can come with immense problems and make us really feel pathetic. But let's pause for a moment, like the clock taking a tick. In life, applying a full stop to whatever has happened and a positive tick, I mean that tick, and enabling our inner power by being a mystic. So with this, I would not want to now come between you and Jayanti Didi anymore. So with this, I would pass it on to Jayanti Didi. I just forgot a few housekeeping instructions. As always, I have been requested to show this, so it's my duty to show that. You all can just click on the interpretation icon, and the interpretations will be there in front of you. You can choose the one which you want to listen to in. And as usual, for around 50 minutes, the talk will go on. And after that, you all can please start sending your questions to me. We'll have a nice almost 10 to 15 minutes question answer session with Didi. She always is very humbly able to do that for us. Thank you so much, Didi. Over to you.
Om Shanti. And thank you, Brother Eric, for your kind words, and also to Dr. Manoj for your official introduction and your kind words. And in England, we celebrate today as Boxing Day, and it's not boxing, but it's gifts. Boxes are gifts. And so we celebrate this day as the day of sharing gifts. And yes, we are also preparing for the new year. And so all good wishes to each and everyone for a magical new year. I hope the new year is able to bring you all that your heart desires. And mercy is a very, very appropriate time for this period of the calendar. It's absolutely what is needed in the world, but also Christmas is a time in which we usually have hearts that are softer and kinder and more generous. And I know that although anyway we see there are so many parallels across the world, and where before we used to think that poverty was limited to certain parts of the world which were developing, now we know that poverty is actually universal. We know that poverty exists in London, right beside the beautiful luxury homes in Knightsbridge. You have another neighborhood where things are very different. Right in the heart of the city, you have amazing bridges spanning the River Thames, and under the bridges live people who have nowhere else to go. So this situation is not just in one part of the world or in one city or anything like that, but really it's become a problem that's been highlighted, especially by the pandemic. And so the division between the haves and have-nots has increased dramatically, and we see wealth gathered in a tiny little proportion at the top end, and a huge amount of poverty on the other end. These are the external forms that we are witnessing. But of course, there's also the bankruptcy of values in the world, a state in which the spirit has been crushed in many, many cases. Did you know there were more suicides last year than there were deaths through COVID? COVID-19 hits the headlines, but there were more suicides than deaths by suicide rather than this. So mercy can function on a number of different levels, and it's something that we all need to cultivate. Physical mercy, emotional mercy, and spiritual mercy. All three aspects are needed at this time. And I'm thinking about how, in terms of physical mercy, yes, we can give food, we can give money, we can give shelter, we can give clothes, we can give medicines, and we can try and help whoever it is we know in these methods. In London, food banks have become a regular feature. Before the pandemic, that wasn't so. But maybe, again, it existed in little pockets or corners, but it's again been highlighted. And now you see food banks in many, many neighborhoods. So we can do all of that. And that's important. We should be doing all of that. In terms of actually helping uplift others, I think there's a few more elements to explore. I mentioned sharing medicines, and that's important in countries where they don't have a national health service. And if I look at the map, there's many places like that where there is just no help available from the government. The government itself isn't managing, and so how can they provide free medication? But yet, there's something that we can all do to help those in need. in terms of health. There have been a lot of experiments done over the last several years in terms of prayer and meditation, and how this is able to actually reverse disease and help others become well and healthy. They had control groups, a group where people were meditating or praying for them, another group where people weren't praying for them. The ones that were receiving the good vibrations of prayer and meditation got well. The control group got to know and said, but what about us? And so, of course, then the meditators and the praying people also helped them. So this is a reality. Vibrations work in a very powerful way. It's not magic. It's called energy. And yes, if there's physical energy, then we know what that feels like. But we also know that there can be a higher energy than just physical energy. There can be emotional energy. There can be spiritual energy. And so what prayer and meditation is doing is using the highest level of spiritual energy. And that can reach one person, many people. One individual can do this, a collective can do this. And somehow, especially since the pandemic started, we get people from all over who say, can you please send your thoughts and God's remembrance to this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. And we share that in the meditation class, and people collectively send good vibrations in that direction. And very often people then write back to us and tell us how it had worked, or they actually come to the center and tell us the same thing. So there's many different ways that we can help. And all of that external physical help that I mentioned is so important. And yes, Christianity has really served the world in this particular aspect. Schools have been opened, hospitals have been opened, food centers have been opened in so many parts of the world by missionaries. But of course, all the other traditions share the same idea also, that giving is actually a higher consciousness than receiving. Yes, when I receive, let it be with humility and gratitude. But yes, also let me know that it is in giving that I can actually receive. This is something that every tradition teaches us. But also, I'm thinking about what should be the quality of giving. And it's so important to let it be altruistic giving according to the law of karma. If I sow good seeds, I'm going to get sweet fruits as a result of that. If I sow bittersweet seeds, then the result of that is going to be sadness and sorrow for me. And so in theory, we know this. It's again a precept that comes in all the traditions. But can I truly check myself and ask if the seeds that I sow are just simply purely out of love for my fellow human being? It doesn't have to be my immediate family, but for whoever. And it has to be inclusive. It cannot exclude. And so the seed of mercy is love, altruistic, unconditional love, love that includes everyone, but also it seeks nothing for itself. And so I'm not giving because I know that the return is going to come to me. But in the giving is the receiving. Yes, what I do immediately receive is the love of people's hearts, they're good wishes that are like the air beneath my wings that can help me fly further. So there is huge benefit here and now, and whatever is to come in the future, it's going to come. I don't have to think about it. But sometimes a few things get mixed in. Sometimes it's a little bit of a business. If I give, is my name going to be up on the plate? If I give, will there be some sort of return that I get, some advantages, some privileges? And so a deep checking inside. Is it pure love that's the motivating force for me to be able to give, whatever it is I'm giving? Or is there some hidden agenda, some motive that even I haven't been able to identify for myself? And so let me go very deep within and be able to renounce the fruit of that good deed, that karma. And so that cleansing is a very important part of mercy. And I find myself connecting mercy and compassion together. They're very, very close. And I noticed that in the translation for mercy, they used two words, daya and rehem. And yes, it works with both words. But equally, I think that sometimes we can have compassion and mercy interchangeably. But yes, I also see that mercy is that concern and the sympathy, but compassion is the empathy, where I'm actually able to stand in the shoes of the other and truly understand what it is they may be going through. And so my giving in that sense is a very different quality of giving. It's giving with a huge amount of compassion in the heart. When there's empathy, then there can be compassion because I can truly feel what the other one is going through. And so in that sense, it's more that I'm able to give emotional support where it is needed. And maybe it's not even just emotional support, it's again on a very external level, but the internal and external work together. I'm able to give of myself, which means giving my time. Am I able to have such compassion that I can help uplift another? And I won't try to keep dividing them up, but just simply share my thoughts. Because I'm also thinking that in mercy, there can be a twinge of pity mixed in. And that's then not a nice feeling for the recipient. And also maybe a little bit of the sense of looking down on others. But no, mercy is a very beautiful word or concept, because like Dr. Manoj pointed out in the beginning, Christ's words to God, have mercy on them, forgive them. Truly, when we seek forgiveness from God, it is God's mercy and compassion that allows us to feel that, yes, I have been honest, I have understood what I need to do, I'm ready for transformation through that realization, and God's love is able to uplift me and help me settle whatever mistake I may have made, however grave that mistake may be. When we ask God for purification, again, God's mercy and compassion comes into the picture, and God is able to uplift us. Another aspect of mercy is when I don't want another person to become dependent on me. Because human nature is such that we love to be loved. We love to be needed. And so if I'm needed, it makes me feel valued and respected. If I'm actually needed by another, I feel very satisfied by that feeling that, yes, my time is being used in a very worthwhile way. But mercy actually means to be able to help another one to the extent that they themselves are able to become self-sufficient, self-reliant, rather than dependent on me. So I'm helping them move towards that state of freedom and independence. And there's a non-vegetarian little story that explains this very well. And it goes something like this. It says, if I feed a man a fish, I feed him for a day. But if I teach a man how to fish, I feed him for life. And so I'm not encouraging fishing and I'm not encouraging eating fishes, but definitely that concept that I can give a man a piece of bread, but if I can teach him how to earn his own bread, that would be far more satisfying for him, so that he doesn't have to turn to me again and again. And so that idea that I'm actually helping another one be uplifted. And so in a bigger picture, I see that when there's education, when there's a process of learning, then if I can be engaged in that, then that is real mercy and compassion. And I know that teachers in the world out there generally have a very hard time in today's world, because it feels as if values have been lost to the world. And so many homes in which children grow up don't, in a normal way, teach values at home. And so the expectation is that the teachers will teach them values, and the teachers expect that the children will be taught values at home, and the kids get caught somewhere in between. Certainly the teachers I've spoken to in England all share the very difficult time they are having, but I'm sure it's the same all over. Because of this challenge that we're facing in the world today, in which where values were the foundation for life for everyone, all levels of society, now it really seems that values have been pulled away on all levels. But yet the real spirit of education, to be able to inspire another, to allow that which is there within them to emerge and be expressed, educare, to lead out from within. And no two human beings are the same, so no two children are the same. And so mercy and compassion in this context, to be able to teach them in the way that they understand best, and they are able to express themselves in the best possible way. And so that idea of really allowing someone to grow, and I've been using the word children, but in fact, it applies to adults also. Am I able to give such company to another that my company allows them to grow further in their own journey and to move forward towards the aim, the goal that they have for themselves? not the aim that I set or the target that I set, but being able to inspire and encourage so that they can see more clearly what is their goal and role and be able to move forward in that way. So mercy and compassion on that level within the physical domain is absolutely vital, but also emotionally. We've now understood how you can have a very high IQ, but if you don't have a corresponding EQ, if there's emotional immaturity, there'll be challenges not only in relationships that are family or friends, but relationships at work, relationships in a team, relationships with seniors and juniors on all levels. And so when people are looking for qualifications, it's not just IQ any longer. They're also looking for evidence of EQ, emotional quotient, to see to what extent people have that too. So here I am dealing with somebody who it feels doesn't have a huge amount of emotional maturity. Am I able to have that compassion for them, that mercy for them, that I can find a way to help them develop and grow further? And what I've found is that the best way to help another is first just simply to love them. And the other reality is that I can only love others when I've learned to love myself. And spirituality teaches me how to love myself. Because from an external perspective, there'll always be higher and lower. And so in company with some, I'll feel inferior. In company with others, I'll feel superior. And neither state is healthy. Feeling superior and looking down on others, that's big time ego. Feeling inferior and feel that others are looking down on me is very disheartening. And again, it's not spiritually correct. Because spirituality teaches me every single human soul has value. Every single human soul is unique. No two can be compared to another. Not possible. Look at the leaves on a tree, any tree, and you'll find that every leaf is very, very different. Same thing. No two souls can be identical. A little bit extra love in one, a little bit extra wisdom in another, a little bit extra peace in another, different qualities, different percentages. And so we all share the same basic qualities, but we are not connected with them most of the time. We've forgotten about them because we've had so much focus on the external identity and external role. And so color, caste, creed, all of these things interfere. And depending on my own consciousness, and if my consciousness is connected with all these external things, then of course I see others with that same vision and put them in compartments. And then mercy and compassion will reach out to those who I feel connected with and I sense a belonging with them, but it won't reach the others. I belong, I put myself in a box, I put others in a box, and I can't relate to everyone. And so it's not going to be possible to see everyone as my brother and love each one as I love myself. Well, I don't even love myself. And so the first lesson of spirituality is to go deeper and deeper within and come to that awareness of the inner being that I am. And when I can see myself as that inner being of light, and I start to connect with the deeper qualities that lie within, not the external qualities that I've acquired through society, parents, education, but the inner qualities of the soul itself. And when I'm connected to that quality of pure love that lies within, it's there, but I need to connect with it. And I'm able to love myself, value myself, have respect for myself. Then I can look out with eyes of compassion and mercy at what's going on around me, and then be able to share that love through my actions of compassion and mercy. Love in action is compassion. And so I need to first of all go deep inside and see what's going on within and clean out whatever negativity there may be. And not even just negativity, but we all carry a huge amount of waste that makes us feel very burdened and heavy. And so can I dispense with that and just stay connected with that original state of being that exists within myself, and allowing that to be expressed and emerged? Yes, then there's real empathy and understanding with another. The other thing that sometimes happens with mercy or compassion is that when you see too much violence or suffering or tragedy, you reach a point of numbness, and then there's compassion deficit. I can't tap into a resource of compassion any longer. I've become empty, I've become drained. And this happens when I only work on the external level rather than the inner spiritual level. When I'm working on that inner spiritual level, then I'm connected with the source, and I'm able to draw continually from the source so that that flows out and reaches out and is able to support and help others. My own state of compassion is limited, as is my love and peace and joy, which is why so often we run out, we run dry. But if I stay connected with the source, then there's an energy that's flowing to me and through me to another. And the highest education or the highest compassion I can show another is to explain to another how they can connect with the source directly, so that I'm not in the picture anymore. They know how to take that compassion and experience it in their life, and they're able then to work things out for themselves. I'll be there to support them and help them whenever they wish, but the purpose would be to connect them with that source. And of course, the first experience they might have is not necessarily compassion. It might be peace, which is what also they're looking for, because when somebody is in need of mercy or compassion, their hearts are really, really peaceless. Their minds are struggling. And so if I can share with them that sense of peace, and they're able to connect with the source of peace, it opens the door. And they're able then to go further and take God's love and go further and experience God's compassion and mercy and purification and forgiveness and everything that's needed for them to become a whole human being again. Because so many people are not complete and whole at the present time. They're damaged. And so I think that this would be the highest form of compassion and mercy, to be able to help souls achieve that. But also, of course, it means that I never run dry. I know that the Dadis started serving. For 14 years, they were in meditation, exploring the inner world, and developing their own skills to connect with the divine. That focus on meditation and silence was the most important thing in their lives for a period of 14 years. But it prepared them to be able to go out into the world, which was pretty hostile towards them for a number of reasons, especially because the majority of the teachers were women. And so they were able then, with that experience of that connection, share that love and empathy and help so many that today there are centers in 120 countries across the globe. And many of you have been recipients of that generosity of spirit in which you've experienced that nurture that love can give you, and that compassion that can always be there for you to support you and carry you further on your journey. And so, yes, there's very definitely spiritual mercy and empathy and spiritual compassion, which needs to be understood and used in a big way. So many people are in need of healing. And I don't mean the healing of the physical body. Yes, prayer and meditation, of course, and sending out those vibrations of God's light so the bodies can be healed, human beings can be healed. But now I'm thinking more about a subject that's very prevalent in many parts of the world, and that is trauma and collective trauma. And so whether it's collective or whether it's individual, sometimes we hear stories of genocide, we hear stories of 1 million refugees, things like this. All sorts of things happen at this period when there's so much darkness in the world, which I know has to finish, and the darkness is going to give way to the light very soon, I believe. But people today are in great need of healing on the inner level. And so I think that that quality of mercy and that quality of compassion will be able to help them. But on the path of spirituality, what we understand is that we first need to heal ourselves. Everything begins inside, and then it gets translated outside. How much do I love myself? Well, self-compassion teaches me that I need to love and accept myself. I know myself better than anybody else knows me. I really mean that. I know what I've gone through. I might not be able to make any sense of it, but I know what I've gone through. I don't know necessarily the impact it's had on me and my physiology even, but I know the pain I've gone through. So I know myself, and I know the mistakes I've made. I know the qualities that I have, but I also know that I don't always apply them and use them in my life. And so that first step in which I'm able to look within and with God's love, learn to heal myself. You know, when I see somebody else upset, a very natural response would be to go to them and put an arm around them and say, can I get you a glass of water? Can I get you a cup of tea? And just make them aware that there's somebody around who cares and is able to provide something for them. Water, tea, nothing more than that, but that's enough. But when I get upset with myself, am I able to go within and have compassion for the self and be able to say, it's okay. Things are going to be fine. Let me just sit quietly for a moment and let me go deep inside and find that sanctuary of peace that lies within. I can do it for others, but very often I don't know how to do it for myself. And so compassion for the self is to be able to love myself, whether I've made a mistake or whether I've done something good, doesn't matter, but to be consistent in being able to love and appreciate myself. Ego is something else. This isn't ego. Ego is where I think I'm greater than somebody else, or I have more, or I can do more than. No, here there's nobody else involved in the picture, no comparison, no competition. It's me with myself. And especially if I believe in God, connecting with God and allowing God's love and light to reach me. And if I can learn to do this for myself and continually keep myself at a level of stability where external events don't shake me, this is the highest Christmas gift, New Year's gift I can give myself, to maintain stability, connected with my own original truth, my own original qualities of peace, of love, of purity, of wisdom and happiness. These are my own birthright. Every soul carries these qualities, carries this as an imprint within themselves. That realization is the highest compassion for myself. And so, yes, I think that if I can manage to do this and keep myself on that level of stability, then whatever 2022 will bring, and maybe there'll be a few more shocks coming our way. We haven't finished with one pandemic, and the scientists are already telling us that, well, there's more to come. And who knows, maybe, maybe not. Climate change is telling us there's a lot more to come, and that I don't think anyone can deny. I don't need to remind you of all the details, but things are moving at an alarming rate if I choose to be alarmed. And if I say, I believe that out of all this darkness, beyond the darkness, there is light. After the night, the day surely has to come. And if I can, with that compassion for the self, remove any fear of the future and focus on that state of inner awareness, then it'll be a great service to me. And it'll be a great service that then I can offer to others around me. Because whatever is my experience is the vibration that I generate. I don't have to tell you I'm scared. You'll be able to feel it if I am. My vibrations will touch you and you'll begin to think, well, there is something to be afraid of, and you'll get scared. And whoever's in my company, that fear is infectious and it's going to go around that whole group and everybody will be scared. And fear leads to paralysis. You don't know what to do. So that's not a good way to start the year. But a very good way to start the year will be to make that commitment that I will maintain compassion for the self and attain that stability where I am in charge of my own inner world. And because I take responsibility and attain that state of mastery, sovereignty over myself, then yes, I can be an instrument to give support and help to everyone around me. And where others are afraid, my presence will make them feel safe and secure and remind them of who they are and what are the qualities that lie within them also. So especially at the end of 2021, 2 years have been a little bit crazy. Nobody expected that we would see all the things that we have seen. And so firstly, let me just check what's going on inside of me, and am I prepared for all eventualities for 2022? I don't know what the year is going to bring, but I do know one thing. As each moment that passes, it's a signal that it's the end of the dark and I'm moving closer to the light. So with a lot of mercy for all the suffering that I'm seeing around me, and that sense that yes, whatever little finger of support I can give in whatever way, let me do that. But most of all, let me start inwards. Because there's not enough people doing this. When there are enough people with self-compassion, creating that state of stability, then even a powerful minority can have an impact over the negativity of the majority. It doesn't need the whole world to change. It needs a minority to change and have that commitment to change. And the change is the change within. And then that minority can have an impact through their collective vibrational energy on the majority so that we move into the light. And I deeply believe that this is the future for humanity, because I believe that the essential quality of all human beings is of goodness. It isn't evil. Again, for those who believe in God, we see God as the creator. And they say, East and Western scriptures tell us this. God created the world in his own image. And so if God is ultimate, total, absolute goodness, which I believe God is, then that goodness has to prevail. because that goodness lies in every single human being. And so finally, ultimately, beyond all the darkness, the goodness has victory. This isn't a fairy story, but all fairy stories have a ring of truth in them. This is why we enjoy them so much. There's always this battle between good and evil and so on. And then it's always the good that has victory. And again, every tradition, every culture has similar stories in one form or another. In India, we have the story of the 5 Pandavas and the thousands of Kauravas, 5 who had love for God in their hearts, and yet the 5 were able to vanquish the huge, huge multi-thousand army. And so the power of mercy, the power of compassion, firstly inwards and then outwards. And yes, definitely, together, we are the ones who have to create a better world. And the collective energy is going to shift the energy of the whole wide world. Big task? Well, if it were just you and I, it would be. But I also believe that the one above wants that to happen, wants there to be an end of suffering, so that then all human beings can experience peace. Let me stop here and see if there are questions.
Sure. Thank you so much, Didi. It was amazing to listen to the sharings. You covered quite a few about the values which are closely related to compassion. You mentioned about love. I must say mercy rather, mercy, compassion, even I'm getting mixed up with those, that's fine. But love and love and peace are the 2 values. Someone is asking that which are the powers which are needed to inculcate mercy in the self, for self and for others as well.
I think the power to turn inwards, that's a very important starting point to develop any quality in my life. And then secondly, I think the power of tolerance. So sometimes we don't realize how intolerant we are. And yet, of course, we get impatient, we lose our tolerance capacity. But if I keep turning inwards and drawing on that awareness within, then my capacity for tolerance also increases. And those 2 together will allow mercy and compassion to happen.
Right, thank you. A few questions coming from doctors. I knew this would be up from the doctors definitely. The first one is about mercy killing, that is euthanasia. So your comments on that.
From my spiritual journey, what I've understood is that even when there's great pain, if at that moment we can comfort the patient with love and just allow them to be in God's remembrance, then each moment that passes in God's remembrance is of value and benefit. And so, no, we would not support euthanasia.
Right. Another question, again, a doctor is asking that as doctors, we are taught to be sympathetic, not empathetic. I mean, I'll just say you rightly pointed out that mercy and is more of care and concern when we say sympathy. So as doctors and nurses, we see a lot of pain around us all the time. So we should be sympathetic, because if we start being in their shoes and start being empathetic, we get very emotionally drained out by the end of the day. And then we'll experience what we call compassion fatigue, which is the term very commonly used nowadays. So how do we strike this balance of being sympathetic, yes, but also have this little bit of spiritual touch of being empathetic as well towards them?
If I'm interested in the path of spirituality, then spirituality is teaching me how to go inside and connect with another human being on that inner level of being able to understand them and, yes, be in their shoes, to know what is the pain that you're going through. and yet simply at that moment, with that understanding, be an instrument to be able to allow them to receive God's light. And they don't have to believe. Whether they believe or not is secondary. But if I believe, then I know that that light is going to help them. And it won't be a drain for me. It won't be that I'm emotionally entangled, because my spiritual training is to experience myself as that unique individual soul and have that experience of being able to be detached, but yet also caring and empathetic.
Wow, wonderful. That was an amazing answer, because each to his own. So I have to look at myself how I need to deal with patience. Okay, a few days ago, Didi, it's a question from one of our translators. She was wanting to get this from you. I think it was in the spiritual versions which we revise, the English versions which you revise every Monday, that give corrections by being merciful. And then your mercy will work in such a way that others' weaknesses will be forgiven. So if you want to just elucidate on this.
I'm thinking about the spiritual mother of the Brahma Kumaris, and I had the good fortune of meeting her a few times. And she had this amazing spiritual capacity in which she would be able to understand the weakness of another and help them understand what it is they needed to do, but also just share spiritual power with them so that they were able to deal with it. Not just help them understand that this is a weakness that they have, but to actually support them and empower them so that they could finish it. So that is very high level of mercy and spirituality. And I've also seen that happen with others who followed in her footsteps, the dadis of our organization, the elders, and many of them had this capacity to make you realize something, but also help you change it.
Thank you, Didi. You said we all love stories. So you want to hear a few stories about how you being merciful, you have a beautiful, merciful heart. So how your merciful heart has really transformed people. Can you please share those stories?
It's very difficult to share a story about the self in that way. So I'll just share one thing. This would have been quite a while ago, but I had a phone call. I was here in London. I had a phone call from a relative of mine who lives here. And she said that her son had died suddenly, and he was just in his, I think at that point, late 30s, early 40s. And could I come and support the family? And it was early in the morning. I went across, and I could see that the daughter-in-law was really very emotionally scarred by this. She was really very upset. Her sons were there with her, and they didn't know how to help the mother. The mother-in-law didn't know how to help her. And I wasn't that close to her, but I just went across and gave her just a lot of love, and slowly just talking about the soul and the way that she could help the soul that had gone, that it would be possible with God's love to reach that soul and give that soul peace, and so on. And the boys became very interested in what I was saying. And so very gently, they started asking questions. And so I was answering questions on the basis of the spiritual teachings. And where I'd been just talking to her, it was difficult for her to stop sobbing. But now she got interested in the answers I was giving her young sons. And she started listening with attention. And I realized the power of spiritual teachings, that you might be talking here, but the other one there is listening. And their mindset gets shifted So it started just with offering her love, but then her understanding of spiritual teachings, even in that space of half an hour, calmed her down. And today she studies the teachings and practices meditation herself. And she would be the first one to acknowledge that it was that visit, that time spent with her, and the teachings. I wouldn't say it was me, but it was the teachings, as she heard the teachings, that helped her move out of that darkness and come to a different awareness. And she's created a very good life for herself.
Right. Thank you. Another interesting question, which shows the brother has got conflict in his mind about this. At one point, he's saying that God has really punished us by sending us COVID for the past 2 years. So he's punishing us for our past sins, whatever we have done. And at the same time, you call him here as Ocean of Mercy. He's ever forgiving. So, how do we understand this paradox?
God is love. God is truth. God is not one who punishes us. Let me give you a simple example. The teacher who teaches you is there to teach you. When it's a major examination, then it's not the teacher who's testing you. It's external investigators, examiners who are going to mark your paper. And so similarly, God is our parent, God is our teacher, God is our guide, but is not testing us, is not checking up on us. But as I follow God's spiritual laws and I experience God's love and allow that to transform me, I am being prepared for whatever it is that's coming as a direct result of human intervention in the laws of nature. It's very clear that we have eroded the boundaries of nature and we've taken over all the areas that used to be rural areas or wildlife areas, and we've taken them for our own benefit without respecting nature on any level. Instead of revering nature as a goddess, the mother who has sustained us, we have exploited, assaulted, and violated nature. And so what we are seeing in the pandemic is the comeback of that. It's certainly not something that God is doing to us. Absolutely not. And yes, it's not just the laws of nature that we've broken, but we've broken all the human laws also. Our lifestyle has been so completely topsy-turvy, where we've put money top of the list rather than human values or relationships or even concern for our own home, this planet, the environment. And so we should expect that there's going to be more pandemics. That's not me being a horrible doom master, but it's actually what the scientists are telling us. Expect more of the same. Plus also the impact of human intervention in nature has caused all the crazy weather that we are seeing. When did you see typhoons come one after another, with no space for breathing in between? When did you see things like this happen across the world? When was it that the glaciers were melting? The list is infinite, but all of it is evidence of human violation of the laws of nature and the laws of spirituality and God.
So, can we human beings do something to change this?
Yes, we can change ourselves. We have to change ourselves. This is the big, big lesson of the last 2 years. Well, I would say actually the last few centuries. we've been totally materialistic. We have to come back to that understanding of our spiritual identity and the values that lie within, and start using those values in our interactions with each other and with nature and the animals.
Sure, fantastic. We just have 3 more minutes. I'll take a few more questions. A brother is asking what to do if someone is taking undue advantage of me being merciful to them all the time.
I think I have to be smart enough and spiritually aware enough to not let that happen. So that, yes, there is mercy, there is compassion, but I have to set the boundaries where I think that those boundaries are not being kept. So I have to gently, quietly, but very clearly explain what those boundaries are. I have to understand the boundaries myself, but then let me explain them to the other and say that this is it, no more than this. And if you go beyond, I'm sorry, I won't be around to help you.
Right, great. At this juncture, someone is asking about karmic accounts. That you actually mentioned about this, not about karmic accounts. You mentioned that when we apply this virtue of mercy, we should make sure that the person whom we are being merciful towards should not become dependent on us. So, how should we make sure that we are not creating more karmic accounts, whether we are settling them or whether we are creating new ones? Is there a method to recognize that?
The mantra is, let me be the one who's able to give. But when I give, let me know that I'm simply an instrument of the divine. And when I begin to think I am giving, that's karma. When I know I'm an instrument to give, there's no karma involved there. Then they're receiving what comes from the divine, not from me. And so where I think I am giving, that's my karma. And where it is I stop giving and I expect them to give to me, that's karma.
Beautiful explanation. And I'll just take this last question. How to develop a merciful heart and have benevolent feelings towards corrupt politicians who are a cause of misery in the society?
I'm not sure that I need to remember politicians in my meditations. Let the politicians do what they can do. But what I have to do is generate those feelings of God's love and God's light and send them out to the world so that everybody is able to experience the benefit of that light and love. I don't need to give too much time and energy thinking about politicians.
Great. And Didi, I'll just take this last bit because I think one of the sisters just listened to the climate change thing which you told us. She says, I want to ask Sister Jayanti's spiritual advice on the vaccination dilemma, to accept vaccination or not. And secondly, she's saying, what is the most merciful choice on the vaccination dilemma and the consequences of that for the environment and people? So you want to comment on that? Yeah.
There's a huge amount of information available pro-vaccine and anti-vax, and it's not my place to get into that debate. So I'm sorry, I will not give you an answer to that. You have to make that decision for yourself.
Great. Thank you so much for bearing with us and our questions. So I would now want to immensely thank you, and the official thank yous again. So I would first request Dr. Ashok Mehta, followed by Sister Claudia. Over to you, Dr. Mehta.
Om Shanti, Jayanti Ben.
Om Shanti.
It was a great exponent of the thoughts on mercy. We as doctors and I as a cancer surgeon have been involved in dealing with lots of patients requiring help, lots of them requiring your both physical, emotional, as well as spiritual help. And I must tell you one thing, that when I look back it was my schooling, what I learned from my teachers, what I learned from my own family, from my own grandmother, really helped me tremendously to develop that attitude of mercy, that value of mercy. And of course, I was born in a religion, the Jain religion, where ahimsa was a way of life and not to give pain to anybody. And finally, of course, it's the Baba's teachings. It's amazing impact on our life all along. And I think if you are merciful and if you want to do something, as you said, few people can do a lot. And I remember my first visit to Mount Abu and the thought of creating the global hospital, because I saw the two people really getting a heart attack and there was no space for them to be treated. And I think that is how it helps, the inner power of valuing others as well as the mercy. I think what you have said was so immense, touching all aspects of mercy, especially when you talked about the environment and you talked about the virus. I think the question you didn't answer about the vaccination, I can only say this, that what science knows today is we should be vaccinated to at least protect ourselves, whatever the opinions of others, whatever it is. We have seen it throughout our development, whether it was a polio, whether it was a smallpox, whether all other vaccines which have helped eliminate the diseases in the past. So I think vaccination, we should not get into the debate, take it. I think a lot of debate today is because of, I think trillions of dollars are involved and a huge industry in it, and a lot of national pride as well as other considerations. But as far as the medicine goes, I think vaccination is what it's going to help. So thank you very much, Jayanti, for touching all aspects of mercy in a beautiful, scholastic way and as a spiritual way that we have been learning from the teachings. Thank you very much. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti.
You have to
Yes. Om Shanti, Didi. I really like to thank you. I like to say thank you and also merci beaucoup, because we are in Canada, so we have the two language. So actually, I think it was a very great gift that we got today in the Boxing Day. When I was thinking this today is Boxing Day, what better gift do we have than have you talking to us about mercy? And of course, like many times when I work with the patient and I say them to say thank you to me, I think that pays more than anything else. I think when we see somebody suffering or for anything, mentally or body, and we help them, that thank you it doesn't pay. There is no money in that involved. It's the best thing. And I really like to thank you for explaining to us in every little detail about mercy. And because today is gifted Boxing Day, I have a little gift for you. So that is from us to you. So you can be there.
Thank you.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. Merci. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. In French, I think mercy is thank you. Yeah, fantastic. And Brother Eric also mentioned he had to leave because he had another meeting. And I would now quickly request Sister Anu to do the announcements, and then we'll take the drishti from Didi, the last 10 minutes. Yeah.
So, with our heart filled with a lot of thanks, Didi, for beautiful sharing on mercy. I want to announce quickly our next program is the Values Workshop on Mercy, as we always do after 1 week. It will have 1 hour of experiential exercises, and followingly, there will be the insightful talk and meditation by Sister Pratibha from Kenya, Africa. So it's happening Saturday, 1st of January. So that's a good start of 2022. So we request all to take a note and join at 7:45 p.m. India time. That's 6:15 a.m. morning, West Coast, US, Canada, 5:15 p.m. for Nairobi, Africa, where Sister Pratibha will be joining us from. And our next episode of Values for Life series is episode number 30 on perseverance, atalta in Hindi. And we'll again have our very valuable Asha Didi from ORC India. And it is happening 8th of January, 2 weeks after, on Saturday, our regular time, 8:30 p.m. India time, 7 a.m. West Coast, US, Canada, and the regular joining links info. So please make a note and we'll see you there. And you can find all the information on our websites. That's vihasa.in, vancouver.brahmakumaris.ca. The YouTube channels you can check for all the videos, and you can send us any query to our emails. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sister Anu. So we'll move on to the silence meditation with Jayanti Didi. So thank you so much, Jayanti Didi, once again for accepting our invite, and thanks a lot.